and there are other tools out there that can do similar functions. It can work as a portal. It can work as program management, does workflow down to doing personal web pages. I'll just use one example. Hurricane Katrina, the Red Cross used SharePoint as a project management tool for disaster relief in the area. And it basically shows what collaboration software is all about. You're moving all your file sharing and your control of information from the desktop to the web. And all that additional sharing and teamwork that implies. What the Red Cross did was they had individuals sharing by email Excel spreadsheets on how well their projects were going. There were about 15 different project managers. Some poor individual in Washington was compiling all those Excel spreadsheets and then reporting them to management with some consolidated indicators. What an application like SharePoint does, or other similar collaboration software, is instead of sending emails, the individuals posted this to a website that was limited, it's restricted to the team members who are on this website sharing disaster relief project information. And so the Excel spreadsheets were all posted on the site. There's automatic features to compile the data, run the indicators. So the poor individual in Washington, instead of having to cut and paste all this data, had it in one central location and had a lot of the analysis automated, not just for her, but for top management. So that illustrates some of the power of an application like this. Standards aren't easy. It's easier said than done. While particularly SharePoint is among the more difficult. MediaWiki for wikis, which is an open source application or movable type, are fairly lightweight and not very difficult to use. Nonetheless, you have to introduce the software, get it approved, there's some training involved, and you have to get people interested in using it. Other software has much more of a challenge in terms of getting it adopted. SharePoint is particularly in that category of not so much the basic use, but the planning and the architecture to get it installed. Vendor dependence, I'm sure there are opponents of Microsoft here and much more in favor of other vendors or open source. It's something you have to keep in mind. If you're choosing one particular platform, you may be wedded to that for several years. You also have to make sure that particular vendor is going to be in business in the next few years. And then cost and benefit, almost like knowledge management itself. Measuring the cost and benefit you're going to get from a particular software platform may be difficult. You may have to resort to anecdotal evidence. So I guess my bottom line here is that IT can be helpful, but it's not necessarily a silver bullet. You have to remember business process. Knowledge management is all about breaking down barriers and sharing information. If people business process is broken and they don't really collaborate, which is typical of a lot of government organizations, it's difficult to use collaboration software. It seems to make sense, but it's not always obvious. There is some loss in using flexibility in using lots of other different tools. There are many online collaboration tools. Google has one, there are many others. They have some power to them and some customization you lose with one standard application. And then perhaps a final point is that many CAM processes are personal, they're not necessarily technological. I mentioned after-action reviews, the military uses them, many others. These are interpersonal. After something is done, you can sit together in a meeting. It's not necessarily a technological endeavor. It's getting people together to share experience and learn from the past. So my bottom line on this particular subject, discuss it further, is I think the whole idea is to mix both good and appropriate IT standards and sound knowledge management process.
Well, you know the game. Go around the table, introduce yourself, and then open up your little brochure, and there's some suggested talking points under topic number 1, Gary's name.
You guys introduce yourselves already?
Attorney Scout, so you're going to get a little piece of it today, and I'm Angela Bertha with the Air Force as well. Currently assigned.
Hello down there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You guys are part of this group, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Why don't you introduce yourself? I'm not in charge, but
Bill Murray, DOD, specifically focused on Zimmerman, continuing communications, joint staff OSD contract.
I'm Gary Hacker with the Department of Defense Office of Inspector.
All right, well, it's up to us to go ahead and chat about these topics.